Hey everybody. So I was thinking about how do you honor your child? And that's particularly true at holidays, at birthdays, things like that. I mean, what do you do for this child who either is on the way, who's not going to make it, who has just passed, or has been gone on years ago and we still are in the process of healing? So I wanted to bring to you a few things that I did personally after the loss of our child, during the process, etc. One of the things that I did just in preparation for my child to deliver, and we knew she was not going to make it because she had anencephaly, one of the things that I did was make sure that I had all of her clothing prepared for when she was born. I made little hats to cover her head. I knew that she would be born with a deformed head and that I needed to, honestly, I needed to cover it for my own psyche, but I also did not want her to be a spectacle. It was very important to me that when my whole family came and saw her, that they were not going to be ogling or staring at her head that was not formed correctly, and that I did not want to watch their faces if they had grotesque, if they had grotesque reactions. I didn't want to see that. And I knew that I personally would be very angry if they had those reactions, and I didn't want that to happen. So I planned ahead. I had a lot of little hats and made sure that she was completely covered. The next thing you can do, if you have not delivered yet and you know your baby's going to pass, you can look into something called Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep, and you can contact them. And if you know about the time that you're going to have your baby, maybe you're going to be induced or whatever, you can look into them and call them and set up an appointment, or you can have their number on hand and call them when you actually go into labor. Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep is a free service where they come into the hospital and take pictures for you. Something you may want to do is make sure that your hair and makeup is done, that you have everything set up in advance. I know that is very hard to think about, but I promise you, if you do not do the things that you can do before the events, you will regret it. Or at least I would have regretted it. Now, I didn't know anything about Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep before I had my child, but the labor and delivery department was so amazing that they had baby welcome boxes for when you lose your child, and they had Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep on call, and they called them for me. I had just planned on taking some pictures with my own camera, and that's something that they did. Another thing to consider, and I find very, very important, is when your baby is born, I took a couple videos of her in my arms. I was holding her and I had the camera right here, and I held her, and then I sat crisscrossed in the bed with my legs up and put her in my lap, and I basically touched her face, took a video of me touching her face, touching her arm, rubbing her hand, rubbing her knee, looking at her little foot, basically inspecting her. That is something that you would do if your baby was living. You would inspect every inch of your child, and you would get to know her or him fully and completely. And that would be something you would be able to do over years and years when you give them baths and dress them and tuck them in bed. But when you have a baby that's not going to make it, your only chance is those few hours, maybe 12 hours at most, when they're first born, and then their body does begin to, they deteriorate. The baby's body begins to deteriorate, okay? So you want to catch those moments early on. I personally they induced me because I was late, and the baby, I was so exhausted by the time that I delivered, and the labor and delivery department actually kept my baby. I slept all night and they brought her back to me, and I was able to get all those videos. And had they not done that for me, I would have never had those chances. And I want to implore you, decide what you want to do. Do you want to take a video? Do you want to get handprints? Do you want to get footprints? What do you want to do? Because if you can nail down what you want to do, then you can tell your family members, this is what I want, and they can be for you. I have a friend who she's also a nurse, and I honestly thought that she would know what to do because she had been in those situations with other mothers, but she didn't. When you go through this, it is such a trying time mentally and emotionally that you forget everything. So I want you to really think about your birthing process and what your plan is for your child who's not going to make it, and then make a plan. Do you want to get pictures? I really, really think you should. I got pictures, which none of them turned out that great, which is fine, but if I hadn't had them, then I would have regretted it. So it's better to have them than not have them. And then something else I wanted to show you for immediately after the baby is born. We did this. These are casts of her hands and feet. I bought a kit at Hobby Lobby that showed, you know, you make a mold. It comes up with complete instructions. The nurses actually did this for me, and in the center I have a card all about her name, date of birth, all of that, which I did cover because I'm trying to remain anonymous, I suppose. And another thing that I did is I made a shadow box. So I have the little hat that she wore, her nightgown, her little booties, all the little knickknacks they gave her, this blanket. Okay, can you see it? Okay, there it is. This blanket has her footprints and all of that. So anyway, it is so important to do as much planning ahead of time as you can. Decide how much intervention you want, etc. I got an epidural. I'm serious. If I'm going to deliver a baby who's not going to make it, I don't want to be in pain during that time. So you do you, but that's my opinion. After she was born, and for the funeral and stuff, and for her headstone, we actually had a college student who was working on her master's degree in art. I found some pictures on the internet that I really, really liked, and I commissioned her to create a unique, individualized picture for our daughter's headstone, and she did that for me. And as well as the little pictures she made, she also made this. Isn't it beautiful? And if I can get in contact with her and find out if she's willing to share her, you know, email address or something like that, maybe you could hire her as well to do special art projects like that. It turned out beautiful. She did not, because she was a friend, I ended up just paying her $150 because I literally only wanted the one little picture, and she did the sculpture just as a favor, as a gift. So some things to remember, some things to do to comfort yourself. One of the things that I did during my maternity leave, I had maternity leave and I took my maternity leave, is I went to comfort others. There was a couple at my church, and they were basically shut in for a period of time because she had just had surgery. I made a pot of soup. Even while I was recovering, I made a pot of soup and I brought it to them. And I'm also a nurse, and when I got there I found out that she had just had knee surgery or something. I can't even remember what she had, but she was having lots of digestive issues, and I gave her the amazing vegetable soup, top quality. I made it, my dad's recipe, and I also gave her some recommendations, and she was able to use those and get some help from her illnesses. And it brought me joy to bring her relief of her problems and to be there for her. And, you know, I had known her for years and years and years, and they, you know, cried with me and gave me hugs and things like that. So they were able to comfort me, and